morning, Nakia.
Good morning. How are you? How are you this morning?
Tired, but
Oh,
okay.
oh my gosh, I understand totally.
Yeah,
How was
just
your
an
week?
alarm for 6:15 for this.
I know, right?
Yeah,
How was your week? How was your week?
it was good.
Okay.
Just working, doing homework.
Yeah, I know, right? I know, right?
Yeah. Is this your only class for the term?
For this term, yeah, my next class starts next month. So
Yeah.
this one, once this ends, I do the A and B session. But I graduate in December, so I had to take these two classes now.
Yeah.
I would have been forced to stay an additional semester just for these two classes. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, let me get my headphones. Hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we must be crazy to keep setting this time for our meeting time.
Yeah.
How's the weather out there? I'm in California. I'm heading back to Arizona today. But how's the weather out there?
It's been pretty
Gloomy?
bipolar, I dare say.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
days it's been really windy and not so hot, but
Uh-huh.
I think it hasn't gone over like 95, which is really weird for the end of May, June.
Yeah, right. It's really weird, but I'm like, damn, I hope this doesn't mean that the later part of summer is going to be extremely brutal. Like, I hope that's not what it means.
Yeah, I know. Like the high today is 98, which it, it's about time.
Yeah,
I don't like the
exactly.
heat, but I'm just expecting it to be hot.
Yeah, because I just I'm in Los Angeles now. I'm leaving to come back to Arizona today, but it's been horrible here, and I'm like, I need to get back to Arizona because I don't. Ugh, it's summertime.
Is it just really humid out there?
No, it's been like windy and chilly and overcast, and
Oh,
yeah.
you prefer the heat? Just the straight heat?
No, I mean I prefer a little bit of sun and a little bit of wind, but I think that when you get kind of used to the Arizona heat.
Yeah.
It's just like when you get used to it, you're not necessarily looking forward to it, but you're like, come on, just fucking come on.
Yeah.
Let's get it over with.
Yeah. I mean, I hope the summer is like not that bad.
Yeah, I do too. Okay, so join. Hold on one second.
Hmm.
Auto correct. Connect. No. Okay. I'm wondering if something is wrong why the other two haven't responded or came in as of yet. So let me see what's going on. Hold on one second. I'm going on our group chat to see if maybe the professor added something different or sent another link or something like that just to kind of make sure or say something in the group chat. So
Morning, Bang. Or good night.
I
Oh,
know, right? Oh, there's Erica. Okay, Erica's coming in.
hi.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
How you guys doing this morning?
Good morning.
Oh, okay, and it's recording. Cool. Bam, I did it right.
Good.
Yeah. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. How are you guys doing this morning?
Good. Thank you.
How was your weeks? Everybody had a great week?
Yep. I just finished the exam for for one class.
Uh-huh. Oh, wow. Good. That's dope. Okay, so report on the. So I'm just going to the information to see what it is that we're supposed to be doing today.
My car got broken into Sunday night.
You said your what?
My car, it got
It got.
broken. I know, it's
Man, that sucks. It's man. I hate when people. I don't know. I just have a problem with people who like have to mess with other people's stuff in order to like
you know,
get something. Like I don't. I've
yeah,
never understood that train of thought, and I never will.
yeah.
Did they just clean it out?
Well, my husband just got home and like he travels a lot for work, so he had his iPad in there.
Oh,
And like usually he brings it inside, but we were in such a hurry. And like we've never, I mean, I've lived here since I was like 12. So we're like, eh. And like it sucked. Yeah.
yeah, that really sucks. I'm sorry to hear that.
It's cool things. I'm like, well, thank God my MacBook wasn't in there. Like, you know, I don't keep my stuff like that in there.
Yeah, I can understand. Okay, hold on. All right, bam, here we go. And I am here. All righty, so let's start this meeting off by like, I don't know, giving Erica like a group hug or something at the count of three. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, we're gonna give her a group hug. You guys ready?
All right.
One, 2, 3. So as you can see, I'm a parent, so I have to come up with different ways of expression. So, but everything kind of bad happens to you to remind you that the good is better, Erica. So don't forget that. Okay.
Very much.
All right. So let's see. Discuss. Well, let me see. Remind your group coordinator to record the meeting. Group coordinator, record the meeting. It is recording. Discuss what terms integration, transfer, conceptual blending mean. What do they have in common? So we'll start. I mean, whoever wants to go first, go first.
I'll go first.
Okay, cool.
So
Okay.
I did read, obviously what we're supposed to read. There's two of them though. There's one about it talks. What does it say talk about? Because I know we did two of them this week.
Let me see. This first one is just to discuss what the terms integration, transfer, and conceptual blending mean and what they have in common. So you can kind of just give a brief overview of what each term means to you and what commonality do you see in those.
Okay. So I know that integrative thinking. I'm starting to understand it more. And I know that just in general, conceptual means, let me see, let's look at my notes, I'm sorry. I have notes on this. But I know that integrative thinking and conceptual, it kind of means like combined, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them. No, it doesn't. Conceptual is different. Let me look at my notes, I'm sorry. Sorry, guys.
You okay?
Everybody else's week was good.
Yeah, yeah, for the most part.
That's good. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Just
I had a custody battle I had a custody case on Thursday.
Oh.
But I was granted full physical custody of my son.
Oh, good. You got favor.
I got full physical custody, so. But I mean, he's been with me since he's 8 months, so it's nothing new. It's continuing what we've been doing, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you know what? It's coming back to me. So
Bam.
I did not do good in that video. I don't know about you guys, but the conceptual one,
No,
it's coming back to me. And this is exactly why I'm like, wait, why am I having a brain fart? Okay.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know what it was about that video. I'm telling you, I kept falling asleep, which is really weird. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
that's not like me. And then I was like, what? And then I would try to pause it, and like I just wasn't really understanding. I don't know if it was the way he was kind of talking about it. I wasn't fully really understanding like what he was talking about, and I didn't really do well on that video. Like I did an A on the other one after, you know. But I don't know about you guys. I was having a tough time understanding what he was even talking about.
Yeah, for the conceptual blending, I did horrible.
yeah,
You
no.
too?
I did horrible. I didn't even understand the connectivity of it through the video. Like it took for me to start to read the chapter in order to kind of get a better understanding. Because during the video, I'm like, what are you talking about, bro? Like I was confused.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I wasn't the only one that was confused.
Yeah, and so like it wasn't until like, well, because I read the how to be the great leader one.
Uh-huh.
That was a great read.
Uh-huh.
And then I love the other reading too that I just did. They even talking about like the transfer,
Uh-huh.
and, like, the high road, low road. That was a good read.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know about you guys. I really didn't really take much from the conceptual video, and that's just my input on that. I'm gonna have to like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if there's more to it, but the only thing I took away from that was basically thinking like two different circumstances and putting them together, like saying, this person has this job and this person has this job. This person would do terribly in this person's job, but that's not a circumstance that exists.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what you think. You relate this person's skills and abilities to this person's profession.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'd say, oh, you'd be terrible at that job. Or like the example that he gave, it's like you'd be miserable if you were in his position, but I'm not in his position. I don't know if you remember that example.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I
Mhm.
also look at conceptual blending as not just being the inability for two people of two different circumstances to kind of blend or, you know, take each other's role and go, but it's also the ability to take those two things and then create something totally new with it that never existed before those things came together. So, you know, if you know, Erica said that she works at Starbucks, right? And I work at a student assistance center. If we were to take Starbucks and the student assistance center and create a Starbucks student assistance center, right, that was only available for students, you know what I mean, who were going to class with free coffee between 8 and 12, you
Yeah.
know, that's also a way of kind of, you know, taking two things that were non-existent before and blending them to where they can work. So there are two ways to look at it. One is something that, you know, not to necessarily say would or wouldn't work, because even when I heard the gentleman's video, everything that he stated as far as his inability was based on his lack of desire to do, you know. So he didn't want to do his brother-in-law's job, and he didn't want to exchange jobs with his brother-in-law. So it would make a person go into a situation and not be successful because they don't want to do it. Success starts with the desire to want to do something first. So that's what I got out of it.
Yeah, that's a good. I liked yours Emily, as like input on that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Putting that into like better terms.
mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's see here.
Oh, I want to say something about
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Because in my opinion, I think the integration, like information integration,
Uh-huh.
like all the information can use for, if it's the information useful, it can be combined together, and also the integration can be the world, the country, the economic, even the even the person.
Uh-huh.
And so like for the transfer meaning from one person to another person or one place to another place. That's what is what a little different from the integration, but I think the conception blending is similar like the integration, because it's also like put some information together. But the difference was that the conceptual blending is put the many concepts together. Yeah, I think this is the one difference from the integration, and I see the conceptual blending is a new research area in this world. So I understand why there are so many person aware of the skill, because I also wear. It's a little hard to understand what's the meaning for the conceptual blending. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, and then pretty much that was integration for me. Transfer is like the ability to take something that's kind of given to you, like verbal instruction. You know what I mean? And you're able to kind of take that verbal instruction and transfer it into physical actions. So it's like if I say to you, have you guys ever played basketball before? And you're like, no. So I take you to a court and I literally teach you how to dribble by giving you a ball, right? Saying, oh, this is what you do. You take a ball and you bounce it on the ground like this, right? And then once I show you and you take that example and then you start to kind of transfer it, bam, then that's one thing. Pretty much that's the high road version of transfer. I think the low road version of transfer would be, I guess, in my opinion, taking the bigger basketball, which is the NBA size basketball, dribbling it, and then going to a Dave and Buster's, right, and getting the smaller basketball, and then doing the same thing. You've already learned how to dribble with a bigger ball, so for you to take that and do it with a smaller ball, it's not that difficult. Conceptual blending is just pretty much like your ability to kind of like combine just your mental space, or the creative meaning or something to bring out the creative meaning in that thing that you've created. So I guess there's a similarity in you having to have something in order to get something. You know what I mean? Like nothing comes out of nowhere. They're all based on you having something and being able to create something from something, as opposed to creating something from nothing. And then, it's just always something separate. Like they're always separate ideas that are trying to figure out how to create a combination of those ideas. So that's also what I got.
Okay. To me, integrative thinking was like, from what I got from the reading, it was seeing problems as a whole and taking them in parts, and instead of being like it's black or it's white, there's a gray spot. Either integrative thinkers see the gray spot or they see a completely different color, Yeah, I see both your points, but let's try this. Or I see both your points, let's try to figure out the best way to do it. Because the same thing in the reading with the Linux, taking the best parts of like Mac OS and the HP and making it free. Something completely new. And transfer, high road transfer, that was I know there were two kinds. There were backward reaching transfer and then forward reaching transfer. Backward reaching transfer, I think it was I don't know if that was the one where you saw a big problem and you're like, what do I know already, or what can help me, and go backwards and start small. And on the other hand, like forward reaching transfer was how what the example that sticks out to me the most was the chess game, the chessboard. Like how can chess learning the theory of control of the center, like in chess, help me in business or politics. I'm like, that's something I even said that in one of the comments. I was like, something so small can be translated into something so big. Like that's a reach, but I see it. And then low road transfer, yeah, I agree with you. Like you already know how to dribble the basketball, just apply it to a smaller basketball. And conceptual blending, just yeah, I have a better understanding of it now thanks to all your descriptions. But yeah.
Hmm.
I love talking about the transfer. I thought it was so interesting to me, and I love watching the TED Talk
Mm-hmm.
about how he was able to basically take the same concept of helping, because he said that violence was responding as a disease. That was
Hmm.
so deep
Hmm.
to me.
That's really
Yeah,
that was
that
So
was really
the
deep.
fact
Yeah.
that he was doing a system or like a process, and I think he was in Africa, and then he was able to do that out here in
Hmm.
America.
Hmm.
I mean, that was just like, but he's just basically applying the same ideas, the same plans, and just kind of doing the same thing in a whole different type of
Hmm.
um, thing happening over here with violence. It's not a disease, but it was responding as a disease, and he
Hmm.
was doing the same thing.
Hmm.
And I found that so interesting when it, how I asked you on the play pause it or the thing, is it a high or low road? I put high, and I was right, and I was like, okay, good, because I was having trouble kind of separating light, high and low, but
Mm-hmm.
that really helped me, and I was like, okay, because that was a great example, and I was so like into the video, and so I'm
Hmm.
happy that I asked me at that moment. And actually, at that moment, it was when I realized the bigger difference between low and high.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I do think that transfer is really interesting. Another thing that I took from integrative thinking um, was that integrative thinkers are way more open-minded and easily
Hmm.
approachable,
Hmm.
where if they have an idea, they already know that just hearing somebody else's ideas or somebody else's thought processes with theirs would make a better idea together overall.
Hmm.
Um, and then that has to do with transfer a lot too, just because if we're learning to tie our shoe, let's say I'm learning to tie my shoe a certain way, and then somebody else buys me a different type of shoelace, I'm already having like a basic understanding and a basic
Hmm.
idea. Yeah, it's a new type of shoelace, but I'm pretty sure my mind's already kind of, okay, you can tackle this just because you've already done something like that before.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think that's kind of like low road, just
Hmm.
kind of something smaller,
Hmm.
something more basic, and you apply that knowledge to like
Hmm.
another kind of situation that's similar. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and it's pretty much the integrative thinker is able to take the overall idea, like it looks at something as an extreme whole, as opposed to breaking it down into like sub issues and trying to attack the individual issues. It looks at the greater part of it, but then it also looks at, some things are obvious, you know what I mean? Like sometimes you have an obvious problem, but to an integrative thinker, the obvious problem is not always the obvious solution. It may be part of the solution, but it may not be the specific part of the solution. It may not be exactly what it is. I mean, if there's a machine that's going and a part of the machine breaks down, of course, logic would say fix the part of the machine that's broken. But then an integrative thinker would say, well, wait, how long has this part been broken? How has this broken part affected the other parts that it's working together with? You know what I mean? And to make sure that nothing else breaks because this part is broken, how do we fix everything to where we don't have to keep fixing individual issues? And so, it was after reading and kind of reading other people's analogies, and the chess thing was big for me, because I understand that even the best chess player focuses on one way to play, or take several ways to play, and then creates this one massive way of kicking everybody's ass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he's able to kind of blend playing offensively and defensively, and being attacked and then playing, then attacking. And so it's the ideologies were pretty good once you're able to kind of get through the meat of people trying to sound too smart sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So are we good with that one? Is that, I think,
Yes.
okay, perfect. So the next one, it says, discuss why these skills are important for human beings. What do they do for our species as a whole? Why would developing them make one a good student, a good employee, or a good business owner? So let's break this question down. So it's not a loaded question, you know what I mean? I think that it'll force us to kind of think about a lot at once. So first we're going to say, let's first discuss why we feel like these skills are important for human beings. So why do we feel that having these 3 skills are important for human beings?
Okay, so I'll start. So I think once you develop these skills really well, it goes further than just thinking about how to solve a problem. I saw this comment on the reading that was really interesting. It said, I think part of it talked about um, identifying a problem or knowing when there is a problem, because none of these skills work for you if you don't know there's a problem. And so I just think when you get really good at it and practicing, unconsciously, because you can change your way of thinking and look at everything like that, you can start to it'll come naturally to you. Not like the best answer, but definitely a good start. And you'll be able to identify, hey, I've seen this type of thing before, this kind of, routine. Maybe there's something wrong back here. And also, it's interesting because I started thinking about it. I was like, wait, does that mean like the most successful people are really good at this? The most successful businesses are people who are really good at this. Because I started thinking of it like a black-white thing. Like you're good at it, or you need to get good at it. And those people, I don't know if they've practiced it or they were good at it, but they're good at it, and that's why they're as successful as they are.
Okay, good.
Oh, is mine working?
Okay, there you go.
Oh, okay. Am I able? Can you guys see me?
Yeah, we can see. I can see you and hear you now.
I love what you said. I think I most definitely, especially now, do feel firmly that just this whole way of thinking is almost necessary for you to even raise a child the best way possible. Because if I just strictly base only on my upbringing, only the way I know, and don't involve what I'm learning, don't involve what I take from everyone else everywhere I go, from work, when I go out in public, if I don't take all those other separate ideas and I just strictly stick on my little closed mind, I even think that it's creating a not best possibility for my son or my daughter, because I think that when you open your mind up and you take different people's ideas, there's a just much better possibility that you can also take that and be more open-minded. Where if I say, no, this is the way my father did it, this is the way you're going to do it, this is the way I do it, it's a very antique and traditional way of thinking, and that's actually it has a lot to do with my culture too. And I just love how it should be more open-minded, take this idea, take that idea. And I do think that it's necessary, because even in ancient civilizations, I'm sure that a leader maybe tried to do, I don't know, let's say they were hunting and they tried to do it one way. But, there's always other men involved, and those men are like, why don't we try to attack it this way? And then maybe the leader was like, okay, that's a good idea. And then maybe they were successful. Well, it took a team and different ideas to create a better strategy. So I'm all for creating a better idea, because I think two minds think greater than one. I mean, and yeah, that's just my little input on it.
Okay, good. Go ahead, Pete.
Okay, for me, I think it's very important for these 3 skills, because I think there are 7 billion people live in the earth, right? And they live in the living in the everywhere, and we need to transfer the information to another place, that we can learn how other country people live. We can learn in the culture, and just for example, I come from China, I'm Chinese, and you guys Americans. So we are in the different culture, and but the integration, the skills, are part of our guys of the four of the us together to communicate, to discuss. So and this would help us to I I know the culture, the information, the knowledge of my country, and you guys know the all the things of your your country. So we
Hmm.
can communicate, so we can discuss, so we can learn the information from another people, and you guys can also learn the culture from me. I think
Hmm.
this would be a good example for the transfer and
Hmm.
then become the integration.
Hmm.
So I think these three skills are very useful for our person.
Hmm.
That's all.
Okay. And I totally agree with you. For me,
Thank you.
I look at everything as kind of being a big circle of understanding. And what I mean by that is I think that even with every right answer, there's something wrong, right, in that right answer. Because in you making a right answer, everyone's individual mindset is different when it comes to right and wrong, right? So your reason for doing right may be wrong. You know, your reason for doing wrong may be right. It all depends on the perspective of the person. And then with every good or bad decision, there's always something good or bad that will happen with the outcome. You know, even when something good happens, you kind of expect something bad. So, in my opinion, in order for us as humans to kind of be able to like integrate and transfer and conceptualize all of these things, like it's what true globalization is. Like even with things, example of him being Chinese and us being American, right? Even when you break that further down, our cultures are different, even though we're American, right? We come from
Yeah.
different backgrounds. So even though there's a general conceptual thought about what an American is, right? There's also a general conceptual thought about what being Black is, and also about what being Hispanic is. And so when we're able to take those individual ideas, right, that we live with on an everyday basis, but then every Saturday morning we come together, right,
Yeah.
regardless of what our backgrounds is, what our cultures is, what, you know, how we were reared and grew up. Heck, even though they, you know, two people may be Hispanic, their households may have been different. You know what I mean? Like, even though one person, two people are Black, one Black family may have grew up in the ghetto, the other grew up in a suburban neighborhood. You're going to have two different type of Black people because they're going to talk different. You know what I mean? Their mindsets will be different. So even in some of the things being the same, there are always so many other differences, right? That when you come together, you have to kind of ignore those differences to create new sayings in order for you guys to be able to come together. Without this class, we would never have this transfer of information. We would never be able to integrate, you know what I mean? We would never be able to conceptually blend our own individual lives. And so that's how I feel like it'll be like it's a great tool. I feel like our answers kind of answered both questions of, you know, why these skills are important for human beings and, you know, what do they do for our species as a whole. I think that we kind of answered that question
Yeah.
in the answering. The next question is, why would developing them make us either good students, good employees, or business owners?
Okay. So I think it works more for, I don't know. I'm just saying it works more for students because I'm currently a student and I see myself applying it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I'm thinking of like high road transfer. Although they
mm-hmm,
said that it wasn't like particularly like very used, or you know, it can't be practiced that much because it's so difficult. I
mm-hmm,
think students are getting pretty close because, you know, you see a big problem, like let's say like the example that they use in the reading in your economics class, and you're like, this is
mm-hmm,
so tough, I can't figure this out, and you keep digging into it, and you know, when you see a big problem, you usually like break it up into parts, like, can I understand this part? Okay, can I see the
mm-hmm,
next part? And so if you look at something and you're dumbfounded and you keep breaking it up, eventually you're gonna find out, oh, well, this is something I learned from my calculus class 2 years ago. And
mm-hmm,
so you go back and you use those skills from a calculus class, apply them to your economics class. Even though they're kind of similar, it's not necessarily the same as I learned this before, I can just apply it here.
mm-hmm,
Because it would involve having to go back and relearn it or learn something different or branch out. same thing, like if you're dissecting a word problem, you look up a keyword and you see the history of that word or what that word means, something you didn't know before that you can apply to your new problem. Employee, I think, would work more with integration because day-to-day basis they have issues that they have to think of the best problem for, the best solution for, and they take things that they've learned in different aspects of the job and try to solve it without having to bother anyone higher up. So, and then I think conceptual blending works more for like business owners because they have to, in terms of like hiring and promoting, they have to see a certain employee in a different position, and that doesn't exist yet, and they have to see themselves going further, what it would look like if their business was in a different circumstance, and that circumstance doesn't exist yet. And so they do a lot of future thinking, and I think conceptual blending is all about future thinking.
Yeah, I agree. I would agree. I would definitely agree.
Okay, thank you.
Should we go in the same order? Should I go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ladies first.
I totally can see all of these skills needing to and should be just involved in just the fundamentals of business in general. Like, just like the fundamental thinking of all of those skills that people acquire, just because in a business, for it to be successful, you have to start here, right? It starts with ideas. And so if you start it with the foundation of an open mind and from different ideas as opposed to one way, I think that it'll grow into a successful business just because it's getting an idea from everywhere as opposed to just one way of thinking. I think that people contributing different ideas and different methods and different ways of thinking is always going to be better than just relying on that one idea or relying on that one method to reach a certain goal. That's just sounds much better than just like a basic way of just doing it this way. So I do totally see why like that skill set is so valuable. And I'm so happy that like we learned about this because like, yeah, even as Elena said, as a student, the integrative thinking for me actually, just like when I go to the community forums or like in one of my other classes I have Yellow Dig, when we kind of share ideas, I do, or even on the perusal, like when you click on the person's name or when when you like highlight, it's like highlighted and you click on it, and like let's say, so what I've been doing lately is like if there's a part that I'm not really understanding or I'm like I didn't really take away, the cool thing about doing it with like the whole class and like reviewing everybody's notes is I click on it and when I see what the conversation what everybody's talking about, I'm like, oh. And so I think that's integrative thinking right there, is being able to take from other people's ideas and like mix it with mine to get a better understanding. And then I'll comment, and I'll be like, thank you, whatever. But it's honestly, I do see how it can connect to business or being a student. That's my takeaway and my input.
Okay, dope. Thanks.
Okay. For me, as I said before, I come from China, so I'm an international student in the ASU. So, like for the transfer, I fly from the China to America to study to try to learn the knowledge in the universities. But there, like I'm junior, so I started in the ASU 3 years ago, but well, be honest, in the first year in the ASU, there were lots of like challenge for me. So because there are everything for me is new, like the culture, the living style. I need to like to learning how to live in the American, like how to live in the school, because the school is a little different from the Chinese school. Because in China, everything like the in China, the primary school, the middle school, the high school, everything, the teacher, the our parents would be make for us. So we didn't need to worry about many things because we just need to do what our parents want us to do. So we don't need to worry about another things like how to live in without school or without parents. But in America it's different, especially in the university. Everything you need to do yourself, right? So as the first year in the America, I learned a lot of things. I learned how to live in myself. So, and this was a good example for the integration because I put all the useful information, useful skills in myself, and I think very good for me. Like the transfer and the integration and also the conceptual blending. I think like the education, the knowledge from the school, I put all of this in my mind. So I think this is why it's very useful for the students because I think I'm just me. So I think I'm an example for the students. Thank you.
I honestly feel like they all help all areas. I think it allows you to, number one, understand. I think communication is big, but I think the biggest part of communication, when one person in the conversation is able to relinquish their ego, right? And I think that that transfers in everything, whether you're talking about relationships between a man and a woman, relationships between a business owner and an employee, relationships between employees and workers. There is or should be a desire of communication to like not have an ego, right? But that generally doesn't exist in us as people. So we hope that when you put these titles, with us as calling us students or employees or business owners, that it gives us a different level of morality attached to what it is that we're supposed to be. And so for me, I think that attaining or acquiring these skills would be good for anyone, because every good business owner, to me, has to first be a great employee. You won't even know what a good employee looks like, you know what I mean, unless you've been a great employee as a good business owner. And if you don't know what a good employee looks like as a good business owner, how can you be a good business owner? Because you're picking horrible employees and your business will fail. You know what I mean? Even with student teacher interaction, right? We have a lot of things going on in our own individual lives as students. So we have to figure out how to express those things to our individual professors, right? Some professor you may be able to go to and be like, hey, I'm a single parent. I'm trying here, right? That professor may have been a single parent and understands right off the top how difficult it could be. Some teachers may not have ever experienced a single parent situation. And so to them, it's like, what does that mean? And so us as a student, we can't allow ourselves to be frustrated with this teacher's inability to understand our circumstance. We have to figure out how to explain it to them so they'll understand and make it easier for us. And so I think that in order for us to kind of be whatever it is that we're going to be, whether it's an employee, because we're going to be something on that list, an employee, a business owner, or a student, you know what I mean? And so if we're not attacking and using all three of those things, the conceptual blending, because some classes are different. This is the first class that I've had that has this, type of meeting setting. And so I had to kind of learn on the fly because we don't have any time. It's summer. We can't make mistakes right now or we'll get bad grades. And so, we have to kind of have all of these conceptual ideas in place in order to be successful in any walk of life that we choose, in my opinion. So,
So
um,
in
I'm sorry.
China,
Go ahead.
like I wish I could go one day. Like it's so dope. Like every time
Uh-huh.
I hear you, and like just you said, just to really
Sorry.
quick ask you. So you said that parents are basically involved in everything. Like they help you basically get through school. Is that what you were saying?
Me?
Fame. Yeah.
Okay. So could you say again?
Were you basically saying that like basically your parents take charge of everything while you're in school? Like they
Yeah, in China, the most important things for parents, in China, the parents think the study was the most important thing. So, like in China, the most of the parents want want their children to get the high score in the school, the primary school, the middle school, the high school. So they just want the children to study in their whole life. So that's why they expanding the score of the children in the school. So they said so the parents usually told to us like you don't to worry about another things. You just need to study.
that's
So that's the better way for like the Chinese parents, but I think that today is a little of changing because I think it's better and better because for the traditional the for Chinese history the uh all the people think that when you get the high score you can get the good school. When you get into the good school you can get in you can got the better life in the future.
right.
Well, this is great. Was correct, but also like uh the hobbies, like is also important for the children. I think
Mm.
because well also the some children also like want to do another things like to playing with their friends,
Hmm.
play or playing the sports when they have free time, but some parents wouldn't give the time to the children.
Mm.
Uh, uh, yeah, that's for my thinking.
That's so interesting. Thanks for
Y'all
sharing.
know, right? Y'all know, right? I want to really pick your head and be like, wow, are your parents open to, I guess what you want to become, or do they have a hand in what it is that you're becoming?
For now, they agree. If I want to do what's
Uh-huh.
agree.
So if they didn't agree, would it be hell for you?
Yeah.
Oh, damn, that sucks, man. That sucks. That sucks. But I appreciate that because as a parent, you know, I don't ever want to put my son in a position to where it's like my way or the highway. You know, um, I believe that parenting, in my opinion, should be more of an encouraging position. You know, it's like you guide and you lead your children to like water, right? But you don't force them to drink the water. You know, like
Yeah.
drink, drink, drink. You know, you're gonna get dehydrated. But it's like,
Sounds like me.
yeah, but you're also getting to learn your children. You know what I mean? And so for me as a parent to tell my son, do this and do that, sometimes doesn't work for him because you know what he wants to do may be better than what I want him to do. You know what I mean? Like he may see things from a different perspective and you never understand that perspective
Mm.
until you're open enough to understand. And I feel like that should exist even in the parent child role. You know, so many parents are forcing things on their children, and then as we get older it's just like this disconnect. You know what I mean? And it shouldn't have to be. It shouldn't. It should only get stronger. It should only be like, wow, I see. You know, I think that we, even in the writings or the reading, I put that it bothers me sometimes that people only equate success to like wealth and money and
Yeah.
popular businesses. Like, you know, for me, the man that's able to maintain his family, right, and the woman that's able to maintain her family, that's successful. when a man or a woman chooses to be good mothers and fathers over business moguls, right? For the sacrifice and success of their children, to me, that's successful as well. So I don't just view success as being,
Yeah.
wealthy, rich people. I don't just equate that to success.
Right.
All right, so let me see. It looks like everything else that we're doing is going to be for next week. I was going to kind of discuss some of our ideas that we were going to come up with for, developing our business, but it looks like we're supposed to develop those individually and then come together next week to discuss whatever idea that we developed.
Okay.
So yeah, we can do that then. Does anyone have any questions or?
Yeah, I do. So
Okay.
last week I failed at being able to record. How
Okay.
were you able to do that? Just so I know.
Well, when I set up the meeting,
Uh-huh.
I set it up pretty much. It allows you to set up a lot of the pre-constructs of the meeting, and pre-record is one of them.
Okay. But did it have, because when I did it, it's had an
Mhm.
on or off selection. It said
Mhm.
recording on or off, and I clicked on. And then when we were, but what I noticed is that right here in the corner, it actually says recording.
Recording, yeah. And so when I set up the meeting on Zoom, when I set up the initial meeting, excuse me, on Zoom, when you go into setting up the meeting on Zoom, it gives you all of those, it gives you that option to pre-record. And so I went in like for 2 days just to make sure that the pre-record button was pushed so that I didn't have this problem. And then I did a test run with myself during the week. So I set up like a random meeting with Zoom with myself. And when I went in it, I wanted to see like what the functionality was. And so once I started mine, I saw the record button on the top right-hand side. So I was like, okay, cool. Maybe I did something right.
Sorry, guys, about last week. I was like, what? I was like, where's my recording? I went to my downloads. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, thank God nobody missed, because things happen. What if one of us didn't show up? But yeah. And so now we just have to upload this to YouTube, right? You're going to do that?
Yeah. I'm going to do that. So,
so when will you do that?
I'm going to do this as soon as we get off the phone.
Okay.
Yeah, as soon as we get off the phone.
Who are the next week? Who are recording next for next week?
The coordinator?
Yeah.
So
it's you or Elaine?
Yes, either one of you guys.
I can do it.
Perfect. There you go. Bam. Bam.
There we go.
All right, cool. So when are we going to have our next meeting? So we want to do this same time next Saturday?
That works for me.
Okay, works for me as well.
All right. Oh, I feel so lucky. Like, I feel like other groups are probably like,
Yeah, exactly, right?
So
Yeah, I feel like that as well. I'm excited. I was looking forward to making sure everyone had a great week, and
it was a good week. It's just those bastards, man. Like, really? Like, I'm not well off in life right now. Like, my husband just got into an apprenticeship. He needs his iPad for school. And, but thank God Costco's having like a tech sale, so I'm gonna go to Costco. But anyway.
Yeah, I was just about to say, for God protects ignorant, like He protects his children from ignorance. And I don't care whatever it is your God is, like it doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
If your God doesn't protect you from BS, then you need to figure out something different.
Yeah.
So, so next Saturday at 8 a.m. we'll be meeting again. Soon as
7 a.m. or 8 a.m.
I mean, I'm sorry, 7 a.m. Sorry.
It's better for me that way because then my kids get up and they're so distracting.
No, look, watch this. Look.
Oh.
Yeah, so he wakes up in the middle of the night and comes in the living room and watches TV and falls asleep on the couch. Hey. So yeah, once we hang up, I'll get this thing uploaded to YouTube and I'll share it. I'll put it on our discussion board, in our group discussion board.
I appreciate everybody. Nice seeing everybody. Have a good Saturday. Okay.
So everyone have a great week. See you guys next Saturday.
You guys have a good week.
You too.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.